Just by looking at this picture, I already know what I'm gonna title this video. I'm gonna call it "Ron is Sick." Not with the woo woo or anything like that, but with the way he running things or not running things down there in Florida. If he was to catch it, no one, and I mean absolutely no one, would be surprised. So the cases of the virus in Florida continue to go up. According to this article that was sent to me, just in this week alone, they've already had probably well over, if you did it by day, well over 40,000 cases. If you did it by day, because if you remember at the beginning of the month, as soon as the month came in, they had like 15,000 in one day and like 12,000 in another. Well, according to this, it says Florida has reported 12,523 new cases of the virus on Saturday alone. And we're talking about this Saturday that just passed, the 18th. They said they reported more than 10,000 cases. I'm sorry, let me reread that. They said on Saturday, making the 5th consecutive day, the hotspot state reported more than 10,000 cases. They said the state has reported more than 11,865 cases of the virus on average over the past 7 days. On average for the last week. And like I said, it doesn't surprise me. I will say this. When they called that Florida was going to be a hotspot, they meant just that, because and I knew that because Florida is a heavy vacation spot. You got Disney World, you got Universal Studios, Islands of Adventure, you have all the beaches, Daytona Beach, Miami, all those places that, because Florida's a very tropical style state. I think the only thing that's going to keep these people inside right now is if a hurricane come through there. I think that's the only way that people are going to stay in. And even then, they probably still going to be insubordinate and still go outside. But this all falls on to Ron DeSantis. And Ron DeSantis is just doing the marching orders of 45 because from what I've heard, 45 actually endorsed his campaign when he was running for governor against Andrew Gillum. And we know he wasn't going to endorse Andrew Gillum because of two reasons. One of them is because he's a Democrat. I think y'all know what the other one is. But let me go ahead and read this article. It says Florida reported 12,523 new cases of the virus on Saturday, marking the 5th consecutive day the hotspot state reported more than 10,000 cases. The state has reported more than 11,865 cases of the virus on average over the past 7 days, up 28.85% compared with a week ago. The Florida Department of Health says the virus has infected more than 350,047 people in the state and killed at least 4,982. Now, I live in the state of Maryland, as many of you already know. I did a live stream with Nicole on her channel, and she's in Texas. And Texas is a hotspot state too, thanks, to their governor Abbott down there, who don't know what he's doing. And where I'm at, we haven't, as far as cases go, whether people got it or died, the combination, we haven't even cracked 80,000 yet. And we're talking about since the virus began, like since it really kicked off. We haven't even, I think when I last looked at it, which was on Saturday, it was at 76,000 plus. So we're actually doing pretty well, pretty decent definitely compared to Florida. 350,000 people in the state since it began. Of course, most of those numbers rose up because, when it started to get warmer, because then that's when they started to lift the bans. I said, Florida, they're going to have to go back down to phase 1. As a matter of fact, that's really actually what part of the title of this article is, that Florida needs to shut back down. And I know that's probably going to be hard for many of them to do because this is the summertime where they make most of their business. Not saying they don't make business any other time, but summer is really their money-making months, like from May all the way to maybe September. But that's why they don't want to close it, is because they don't want to lose the money. But you got to think, if people are losing their lives and people are getting sick, from this virus, you're going to lose the money regardless, because guess what? Dead people can't spend nothing. You just lost a piece of your economy. And your economy comes from the people, and dead people don't spend nothing. It says the state has reported more than 10,000 new cases per day since Tuesday. Of the past 10 days, Florida has reported more than 10,000 new cases per day on 9 of those days. It reported a spike of 15,244 new cases on July 11th. Now, these 45 supporters are going to swear up and down that this is nothing more than a hoax, mainly because they kiss 45's ass so much. And they just want to reopen this economy, even though it's not ready yet. If they had did what other nations were doing, such as New Zealand, and they pretty much got their stuff down to zero, where they are now in the process, if they have not done already, open their entire economy, we could be in that same position too. Like I said, the U.S., America, they were not the first place to get the virus. They were like the fourth or fifth place to get it. But they have surpassed every other nation that has gotten it and went right to that top spot and stayed there. While everyone else's numbers are slowly declining, hell, even China, where the virus came from, numbers even went down. You would think that the place that it came from would have more, but then again, look at who the president is. Let me continue. Hospitalizations have risen in recent weeks as well. As of Sunday, 49 hospitals had no more available adult intensive care units. The residents here are terrified, and I'm terrified for the first time in my career, because there's a lack of leadership. That's basically a jab at the person you see on your screen. And that statement came from Florida Representative Donna Shalala, a Democrat whose district lies within Miami-Dade County. Miami. This week, it says, it's terrible. We have community spread, which means the virus is out of control. The lack of both federal and state leadership from Ron DeSantis, a Republican, has hampered local officials' ability to bring the virus under control. She added that the state did not shut down for long enough to starve the virus, and that the governor has declined to issue a statewide mask order. In my district is low-income minorities, Hispanics, and African Americans. Let me read that part again. In my district, it's low-income minorities, Hispanics, and African Americans. What does that tell you? Who are forced to go back to work for economic reasons and because their employers demanded they go back to work. She added that the people in her district live in multi-generational households, so those who become infected often pass it on to their older family members. Over the past 7 days, the median age of newly infected people in Florida was above 40. That marks a steady rise since mid-June, when Ron DeSantis noted that the median age of those testing positive had fallen from 65 and a half years old in March to 37 in June, hitting a low of 33 on June 24th. DeSantis has pointed to the lower age of patients as evidence that the state is effectively protecting its most vulnerable residents. Younger people are less likely to become severely sick and die from the virus, according to data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. That's one thing I had said in the last couple of my videos or live streams when talking about this virus. I said one thing I wish they had not did even early on when this thing first happened was give an age as to who would be affected and who would not be affected. Because all that did was send a dog whistle to people's brain. Oh, well, since it's not going to affect me because of my age, I'm going to go out here and live my best life, even in the midst of a brand new pandemic that I have no knowledge of or what it's going to do or what it's capable of. I said what they should have did was say that we don't know enough about this virus to make and pinpoint who will be affected and who won't be. So to be precautious, let's have everybody quarantine. Let's have everybody be on lockdown for a little bit until we get this thing under control, and then we will work our way up. But instead, what did they do? Oh, this age and up can get it. This age and down won't get it. This people with pre-existing conditions will get it. Those without it cannot get it. When they did that, it was a wrap. And that's why people sent a trigger to people's brains saying that it won't affect me because I don't fall into any of these categories. But as you can see, since then, the virus does not discriminate. Like the internet, it's also undefeated. let's see here. It says there is more testing now than there was when. So that may account for some of this, but I think we're seeing a true increase in cases in older adults, which makes sense given the overall large increase in cases. Cindy Prinz, an epidemiologist at the University of Florida, told CNBC last week. Shalala added that the virus hospitalizations have been steadily rising, especially in her South Florida district. She said some hospitals are overwhelmed and patients should be concerned about receiving quality care in the current environment if they become sick and need to be hospitalized. Republican Senator Marco Rubio said earlier this week that shortages of remdesivir, the only drug currently authorized in the U.S. to treat the virus, that's my first time hearing about that, being reported in Florida's hospital are due to a bad disconnect with the 45 administration above his state's needs. The Department of Health and Human Services signed a deal with drug maker Gilead to secure the available supply of the drug, but amid the recent surge in cases, hospitals have been struggling to meet demand. We need to close down in Florida, Shalala said. Our economy will not come back until we meet this virus at its head and bring it down. When she said that, it almost reminds me of what Mayor Sister Girl in Atlanta was saying, but she's getting some pushback from Governor Brian Kemp. So it's basically running pretty much the same exact way. You want to know what's so crazy? I didn't know who a lot of these governors were by name. Most of them I may not know them by face, but I know them by name until this virus happened. And let me tell you something right now. Most of these governors are grade A trash. Like I told you, this virus, this quarantine, whatever you want to call it, has exposed so much. And see, this is what's going on right now. We don't know what's going to happen when fall kicks in. Mind you, fall technically starts in September. I think September 22nd is when fall begins. But of course, when fall really begins, it's really still it's not cold or anything like that. It's starting to transition, but you'll still feel a little bit of warmth from the summer. But when fall really kicks in, when you're talking about like October, November-ish, it makes you wonder what's it going to be like when those months come in and the climate and the temperature and the weather starts to change.